In the middle of the frigid Bering Sea, where the wind howls and the waves are as high as ice walls, dozens of steel ships are bracing themselves for the ocean's most severe test. On deck, steel cages weighing hundreds of pounds are lowered into the deep sea, home to a creature that has become a luxury symbol in the culinary world: king crab. In just one fishing season, more than 50,000 giant crabs will be pulled from the icy waters, bringing in an estimated value of $12 million. In today's journey, we will follow the king crab from the moment it is caught in the stormy sea to the moment it becomes a delicacy on the dinner table, to discover the enormous scale and million-dollar value behind this seafood. Go discover 50,000 king crabs worth $12 million, processed inside the king crab factory. From Dutch Harbor, giant steel ships plowed through the Bering Sea, where the biting cold and howling winds were enough to turn any journey into a life-or-death adventure. On deck, sailors prepare giant iron traps, each weighing nearly 661 pounds, filled with mackerel bait to attract giant crabs lurking deep under the sea. Once the traps are dropped into the dark waters, the clock starts ticking. In just 24 hours, they will haul up dozens of king crabs, each weighing anywhere from 6 to over 10 pounds, with some reaching 28 pounds, the size of a small child. But this is not just a harvest, it is a battle with the ocean.
Off the lens. There we go.
Waves as high as 19.7 feet can overwhelm the deck. Thick ice makes the deck as slippery as a knife blade, and temperatures of minus 20 degrees Celsius make every maneuver a race against death. In the cold headlights of the dark night, the moment the iron cage is pulled up filled with glowing red crabs always brings a feeling of extreme excitement. It is both a victory over nature and the beginning of a journey worth millions of dollars. Once out of the water, the giant king crabs are not allowed to waste even a minute. They are taken straight to the cold, circulating seawater tanks on board, where the temperature is maintained exactly at the same level as their natural environment. This is the life and death compartment. If the water is too warm, the crabs will weaken and die. If it is too cold, they will stop working and lose their commercial value. When the ship docks, dozens of specialized refrigerated trucks are immediately waiting, each containing thousands of gallons of artificial seawater that is oxygenated to keep the crabs alive. From Alaska, the journey is not over. Refrigerated containers are sealed and loaded onto cargo ships, traveling thousands of miles to Japan, the United States, and South Korea. It all has to happen within 48 hours, a race against time, where absolute precision determines the value of the shipment, which can be worth millions of dollars. When the refrigerated containers were opened, the first sight was tens of thousands of live, deep red king crabs wriggling around in tanks of artificial seawater. Each batch was lifted out by workers in protective gear and placed on a shiny steel conveyor belt. Here, they are carefully sorted. Small or weak individuals are eliminated. Only those that meet the standard size and weight, from 6 to 10 pounds, are kept for processing. Up to 50,000 crabs can pass through this process in a single day, worth more than $12 million. Next comes the cleaning process. High-pressure water jets are sprayed directly at each crab, washing away the sand, algae, and mud that clings to its shell. The echoing sound of machinery, mixed with the rustling sound of crab claws hitting steel, created a rhythmic industrial soundtrack. Immediately afterwards, the crabs are taken straight to giant industrial boiling tanks, each tank holding tons of boiling water, the temperature always controlled at 100 degrees Celsius. Within minutes, their shell color gradually changes from dark brown to bright red, the red color that symbolizes luxury on the banquet table. But the process doesn't stop there. To preserve the flavor and texture of the meat, the crabs are immediately dropped into ice-cold water tanks, stopping the cooking process instantly. From there, automated machines cut and separate each crab leg, arranging them neatly on an endless conveyor belt. Workers with precise movements inspect each batch, removing any substandard pieces. Once processed, the crab meat is put into a vacuum packaging machine. The plump, white packages of meat, sparkling under the factory lights, are sealed in multi-layer packaging to ensure freshness throughout the shipping journey. At the same time, the quality control team takes random samples. They measure the pH, test for microbiology, and weigh each package. Only products that meet international standards are sealed, ready for export to the U.S., Europe, or Japan. At the end of the line, hundreds of refrigerated cartons are stacked, marked with batch numbers, production dates, and destinations. The refrigerated containers are sealed at the dock, ready to be shipped to the port. From here, the king crab's journey begins a new chapter. Leaving the factory, they will appear in luxury supermarkets, high-end restaurants, and on banquet tables worth thousands of dollars, closing an industrial journey operated with near absolute precision. Once it leaves the processing line, the king crab's journey really begins. In Tokyo, Seoul, or New York, a single crab can cost $300 to $500, and in high-end restaurants, a king crab feast can easily cost several $1,000s. Not only is it delicious and juicy, king crab is also a symbol of luxury. In Korea, it is reserved for special occasions. In Japan, it appears in high-end sushi, and in the U.S., it is the centerpiece of Christmas and New Year's celebrations. History also raises the value of this crab. Since the 18th century, it was offered to the Russian Tsar, comparable to caviar. After hundreds of years, that image still holds its weight. King crab is not only food, but also a mark of power, prosperity, and luxury. Today, the cans of crab meat packaged in supermarkets not only reflect modern technology, but also tell a long story of cultural exchange, from the icy seas of Alaska to the brightly lit banquet tables. But behind the glamour lies the risk of depletion. In the 1980s, overfishing severely depleted the king crab population in the Bering Sea, forcing Alaska to impose strict quotas, limiting each boat to a predetermined catch and shortening the season by just a few weeks. Today, every crab that comes aboard is subject to scientific and fisheries surveillance to protect its reproduction for future generations. At the same time, many countries are experimenting with farming king crab in controlled environments, an effort that is necessary to keep this luxury seafood from becoming a memory. They are bottom dwellers, requiring large spaces and a stable cold environment. Therefore, experimental farms must simulate the natural conditions of the deep sea: sand, crushed rock, and a temperature of 2 to 4 degrees Celsius all year round. The breeding journey begins with tiny larvae floating in tanks with pale blue light. They go through many molts to become juvenile crabs, the most fragile stage, when even the slightest change in temperature or salinity can kill the entire batch. Once they are strong enough, the juvenile crabs are transferred to larger tanks with circulating currents that simulate the tide. Here, they begin a predatory lifestyle, fed on small clams, crushed shrimp, and protein-rich pellets. Growth is slow. It takes years to reach commercial size. From the icy Bering Sea to lavish banquet tables, the king crab has traveled a brutal journey. The labor of fishermen, the precision of technology, and the responsibility of conservation to keep this giant crab from disappearing. 50,000 crabs, $12 million, is not just a number, but a story of trade-offs. In the light at the end of the factory, when the container leaves the port, the real value is not only in the sweet white flesh, but also in the effort to maintain the delicate balance between exploitation and nature. If you want to discover more spectacular journeys from agriculture, seas to processing technology,